Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, episode number 158. 158.
Yep.
Today on the old Doctor Who show, we are reviewing Dot and Bubble. I keep wanting to say Dots and Loops. No, we're going to say Dot and Bubble.
And who is we? Who's reviewing this dang thing?
Well, if you haven't figured it out by now, my name is Eric. You are, of course.
I'm Dan. So, and we're excited to continue talking about not old Doctor Who, but also the newest, freshest.
Yeah, we're here to talk about the new stuff, the hot stuff, hot off Friday's press. I watched it on Friday. I don't know when you watched it. I'm not in charge of you.
I watched it because I got that emancipation order. I watched it on Friday, and I also kind of skimmed through it again yesterday.
Okay, I only watched this one once.
This is what I'm going to be watching this one every night for the rest of my life.
Yes,
totally.
It's your go-to bedtime.
It is my go-to.
Before we jump in, I would just like to point out something about last week's review, 73 yards.
Is this a correction?
No, it's not a correction. It's
okay,
it's an additive. It's an enhancement. So I edit the video show and then try to do it as soon as possible after I do the audio show. And sometimes I'll hear things on the audio when I'm editing that maybe I missed or make more sense. And one thing that you said really jumped out at me, which was you had made a comment that. Now I can't even remember. I'm going to get this right. Were Ruby's powers coming to fruition, or was this a manifestation of Ruby's power? Which, when you said that the second time when I was listening to it, I was like, I think there is sort of a science-y explanation to that, because they make a point of talking about the perception filter. And Kate's like, what happens if a TODWS lands on this magic circle? And if you combine those three ingredients and whatever this latent power set that is within Ruby, whether she's from Timeless Child land or something else, had caused...
Not letting go.
Had sort of taken her powers through perception, because it's all about perception, how she sees herself and blah, 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 and manifested that into reality, which created that whole alternate thing. So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting observation that you made. And
can I tell you,
I add to it.
I don't remember making that observation, but it sounds brilliant. So it's probably something I said. I think what I'm kind of getting at from that is we keep having this reference to snow over and over again. We did talk about that in that episode as well. There were several times the snow was falling. Oh, also, did I mention this as well?
No.
I said in the episode that it snowed a couple of times, and I mentioned those. There was another time that it also snowed, which was when she was sitting with
we talked
the Brigadier. I don't know if we mentioned that. Well, she's not the Brigadier, but Kate.
You're right. You mentioned that to me outside of the show.
After the show.
Yes, we didn't mention it in the show.
So each time it's happening, once when she's sitting outside her apartment and her mother's locked her out and it's falling then. Once when she's leaving the TARDIS and heading towards the town and she runs into Susan Twist, but that could have been actual snow, but let's just assume that it's not. This time when she thinks she's getting help out of the blue from this new super organization that's going to help her figure out what's going on, it's snowing. You don't really see the snow so much. It could have been drizzle because it's out of focus in the background, but it kind of read as
I don't
snow.
know. It could be tied to an emotional state.
So that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like her power is like, in Space Babies. Space Babies. We should talk about Space Babies every episode. But she had the Doctor there, and he's the one who kind of comments on it again. It's the emotional state. So is it just the emotion of it? Is it? It's a call back to her being left as a child on the step of Ruby Ridge when it's snowing. So. Anyway, it's all tied together in that way. But yeah, does that have something to do with, the perception filter on top of the fairy circle plus her powers?
Yeah, right. And then you start to get into the whole thing with all the elements that are self-aware of the show. Does she also exist outside of the show? I had just texted you earlier. There's a line that we missed in the second episode, right? the Maestro one that's not called the Maestro, the Devil Chords,
Devil's Chord.
Devil's Chords.
Devil's Chord.
Where the doctor says, hey, there's always a twist at the end, right? And so you take that reading and you're like, ah, ha, 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 you know, because these shows always have a twist at the end. But then when you realize Susan Twist, the actress, is appearing in all of these, and she will likely be in the finale, so there always is a twist at the end, because, again, we have the doctor talking about, like, the soundtrack music. We have the Maestro playing the theme song. So there's all these elements, including now, potentially, you know, a cast, literally the name of the actress playing the character. I assume that's her real name.
Oh, I mean,
I have no. I mean,
was the casting
name, right?
call? Was the casting call only for people with the surname of Twist? I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah, we need
which
a
would
twist.
Be very, very weird.
But anyway, so I don't know.
But and no, it's good to call out because it is more explicitly mentioned in this episode, which is great. So
yeah, so let's jump into.
We can get to that.
Let's jump into it. I got nothing else, but I want to talk about.
Jump into the bubble.
Dots and loops. No,
hey,
bubble and scrape.
It's all a matter.
No, dots and bubble.
Dip and
bubble.
dots.
Is it dot and bubble? Dip and dots.
Dot and
shake
Dorothy.
Shake the crime stick.
Shake the crime stick!
It's a glorious day in Fine Time.
There are creatures out there in the real world. There are monsters, and they are coming to get you.
Dan, this is Dot and Bubble. This is
the
fifth episode, right? I think it's the fifth episode or sixth. I can't remember when we
count.
Five of the season 1, which is also season 14. Which is also season 15.
20?
I don't know what it is. Or it's season 10,000.
I don't know.
And whatever.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, this is written by Russell T. Davies again. I guess he's writing just about all of them. So far, it's only been Stephen Moffat. But again, Russell T. Davies. And directed by Dylan Holmes Williams. Who I think we've seen before, right? When it's Dylan Holmes, you know it's going to be a good time, right? Until he got
the rhyme isn't so good on that one.
Yeah,
he had that one out.
Well, he wasn't. That was the thing. He got in some trouble. He had to sign some papers. He can't have those kind of parties anymore. No, nothing against Dylan Holmes Williams. In this story, the Doctor and Ruby almost get to where the story takes place, but not quite. It's a planet of space racists. Super rich kids in space. Having fun, right?
Aryan Farms.
Dan,
we're on Aryan Farms.
Yeah, we're. What did you think of Dot and Bubble? I'm gonna get that right. Dot and Bubble.
Okay, Eric.
Yeah.
I was prepared to kind of just kind of let it wash over me and just like it's fine, whatever. The preview for it looked very much like I don't know exactly which episodes it kind of called to mind, but it felt very like. Oh, we're going to be doing a social commentary on The Circle or whatever those like social media. It's going to be one of those like game shows or it's going to be a reality TV thing. And I was like, I guess that's fine. Oh, and you know what it reminded me of? I will never remember the name of the episode, but there was. Oh no, was it Space Station? Where
was that the one with the
it was like season
the weakest link?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's 100%. What I think what it called to mind. It's like, oh no, this is going to be so bad, but. I will say it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
I enjoyed the performances, the production. Again, let me tell you, I was reading a little bit. This story, Russell T. Davies came up with in 2009, 2010, and they wanted to do it then. When they broke it down for production, they realized they could not do it because it would have cost too much money to do all the special effects. This is where we're seeing the Disney money. Whoop, 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 whoop. It's Disney money coming in. They're actually able to do all of the visual effects. There's a lot of practical effects in this. So they're able to finally do this. Thank God.
Are there a lot of effects?
It's like they're wearing a bubble. Every shot is a special effects shot.
I guess, but most of it's like just Zoom calls. But keep going.
I mean, an interesting main character. We get the Doctor and Ruby not physically in the same space with them most of the time, so we're this close from the main character, Lindy Pepperbean, for almost the first half of the story. So we're like inside her little bubble. I like the way she woke up in the morning and it's like it just kind of jumped you into the story right away. Really strong visual style. You had Dot and Bubble, and the thing comes up and she's got the social media stuff, and it was like pretty clear where it was going right away. I will say they're starting through it. The reveals were really good. She's brushing her teeth and dancing to the Ricky September song, and it pulls away, and you can see like the shape of a giant alien slug in the background, which I thought was really effective. When she's being steered around through the world with the arrows, she walks around a person whose legs are just there and get pulled off the screen. Like, there was some really interesting, like, fun, not scary, but like effective sort of reveals. So that was fun. Beautifully done, like so vibrant and colorful and interesting characters that were obviously like really strong satire. Overall, it was fun. Not one of my favorite episodes, but much better than I feared it was going to be. I can talk more about it, but I'd rather hear what you thought.
Okay.
Eric.
Well, I think that discussing this episode, you sort of have to break it into two parts, right? So there's like the main story, and then there's the ending, right? So
yes.
I feel like the ending is a separate conversation. So I'm going to ignore the ending for now.
I think it kind of divides at when Lindy actually leaves Ricky behind. Like that's the moment when she goes into because I think that's the main
save it
turn for the character. But anyway, go. Yep.
I did not like it at all. Dealing with the first part. Well, I mean, it's so like on the nose.
Yes, it is.
For so much, like when you just, again, the ending changes some of my opinions on things and redeems a lot of it. But for the most part, I found it to be very like heavy-handed with its satire of living in literally it's called a bubble and the social media stuff. And like, there, when we get to the end, there is like, as I was watching it, I was like, okay, that's weird. There's a lot of white people here. And then she says like a racist thing pretty early on when she realizes the doctor, she had met him before, and she's like, I thought you all looked the same, or like, I didn't realize. So
she said, I thought you just looked the same, which could be read as I just thought you looked like this other guy, and then you realize, oh no, she just thinks
right, but that's a whole other, I guess, conversation. That's the racist stuff. I just felt like it was like compared to the last episode, where to me that's like great art metaphor.
Yes.
This like you're literally talking about what you're talking about. Like I like the commentary about the fact that, you have to have the arrows to go to the bathroom and she doesn't know how to walk. But I feel like there's other stories that have done it better than this. Mm-hmm. I'm sure anybody talking about this is going to be like, oh, Black Mirror. But like, it just felt kind of weak. And the character is so unlikable. But that again, we got to get to the end because it sets up the expectation that it's going to be like every other Doctor Who story, and it's going to be this awful person that's going to grow and change, and sort of when we get to the end, that's sort of pulled out from under us. But I don't know. Yep. Other than Gothic Paul, who had the lowest follower count, I didn't notice that. Did he? He did, yeah. Because of course, Gothic Paul, he had like 300 followers. Everyone else had like thousands. I don't know. I did not love it. But then at the end, it makes some choices that were not what you sort of expect, which, it swung for it. It went for something. Whether or not it succeeded in that is another conversation. But like at the end, it was like, okay, so I don't know. You want to just talk? And that's my overall opinion was not my favorite. No. I thought the ending sort of made it interesting and worth watching and talking about.
Sure.
Was it enough? I don't know. I just think you could have told maybe the same story in a better, more interesting, less tread upon fashion, personally.
Yeah. I agree with all of that, too. I kind of enjoyed how insufferable
I hated a lot of the plot points, too. I hated...
Oh, okay. Tell me everything you really hated about this story.
No, you can talk about how she's insufferable, but when we get to
she really is, and you're right. I had the expectation of she's this person who needs help, and the doctor's going to help her, and along the way she's going to learn a lesson. And I mean, you really do. So it is good in a way that it's playing with those expectations, and then you're right. The ending, I agree with you. The ending is the part that actually kind of brings the whole thing around and makes it better than it was before. I don't know. I don't think it was very successful, actually.
Okay.
I agree that they swung for it. And I don't think it was successful for a couple of reasons. Do you just want to jump to the end, and we could skip everything else, or do you want to?
Well, let's stick now. Let's go. Let's do the end. Let's do the important bits. One, Gothic Paul wasn't goth enough. First off,
no. Well, I mean, maybe Gothic is relative.
I guess in the future,
them,
in the rich future
them,
world,
in this one,
maybe it isn't. But there are so many elements of the plot that were just dumb or there for like tension reasons, like the fact, like the AI. Oh my God, the AI has been listening to you and it hates you, and it's the killer AI, and fine. But then it's going alphabetically through the thing. Like,
two things.
That's not efficient programming. It would just sort of spread like a virus and kill everything around and just sort of move from a central point. But the fact that it had to go alphabetically so you get that tension, and then the pulse codes that was like, lost with the code. You have to enter the code. That was incredibly dumb. Yes. What are you going to say about that's worse?
It's worse because not only is it killer AI, which I actually kind of liked. Like,
sure,
that part was actually an interesting thing. Like, oh my God, I'm a slave to this person who is completely inane, and it's like the Dot has achieved sentience. It's just like, I have to kill these. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Absolutely. Right choice. Right.
And that's a commentary too. We're creating AI now, a small group of people and tech companies and venture capital monsters that will destroy everything good about humans until at the point when no one has a job and it's just rich people hiring everyone else to fight. Like that's what it's going to be, right? It's going to be like, instead of looking for gasoline. Yeah, it's just going to be like cage matches, and I'm going to have to fight for food. I'm
going to do really well in that future. I can't wait.
Go on.
One of the things I don't understand is, and this was, again, I think, like you're saying, it was a plot point for the tension.
Yes.
Hang on.
I'm sorry. I'm getting excited because I forgot about one of the main points I also didn't like.
Why did the AI create slug creatures to kill them?
No, unclear.
No reason, because the Dot at the end,
because they're computer bugs.
No, because the Dot that Lindy has just decides to go murder Phantasm on them. They just should have all gone Phantasm style.
They all could have just drilled right into their head, and it would have been over, and you didn't have to import the slugs.
Well, they were grown inside because how did the AI grow them? He says they were grown.
Yes,
because they didn't come off the outside.
I feel like
so dumb.
It was dumb. I feel like to do a rewrite, which nobody asked for, they make a point of saying how there's like the woods all around them, right?
Yes.
It would have made more sense if the bugs came from the woods and the AI was letting the bugs in to eat the people. And then at the end, when they were going off into the woods, because any other Doctor story where those people were going into the woods, the Doctor would be like, that's humans. They're going to the frontier and they're doing all this human things that I love humans. Instead of being like, you're all going to die out there.
You're going to die in there.
You would have said, oh, you're all going to die out there because it's woods is full of these slugs. They're just going to eat you. But they didn't do that. They said like they were grown, but didn't make any sense. Why were they growing them?
Do one or the other, though. I mean, don't do both. We're growing these giant slug things that are going to eat you alphabetically for some reason. Yes. Or this Dot can phantasm through your brain.
Yeah, that's much easier. You're right.
Just pick one. And
you don't need the bugs at all. I think your point's 100%. You got a Dot already in position above everyone's head. At once, it could be like that directive that the Emperor does in Star Wars, right? You call it off, and all the dots just drill in.
Go, and everyone's so
one other point that I want. Okay,
go for it. No, you're excited. Go for it. I want to hear it.
I was just saying the pacing of the episodes seems so off to me. Like there's only 8 episodes. We start off with one of the weakest ones, the Space Babies. Then we come off a Dr. Light episode, which is amazing, 73. And then to have the next one also essentially be the 2 main characters on a Zoom call occasionally. It's just felt weird to have this following the last story.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I love them together. So like the limited chemistry that we have together. Now, if you look outside of the show, I believe maybe Ncuti Gatwa was filming Sex Education at the time. So maybe it was like a logistic thing that they had to they didn't have him to shoot, so they had to shoot them in a sound, whatever. But just I don't care about any of that. I just want to talk about. It just felt sort of weird to go right to a story focused on a character that's so unlikable, with very little Doctor and Ruby.
And we assumed that we know there's a 2-parter for the finale for this. So out of 8 stories, the last 2 are going to hopefully be tying up or expanding on the story arc, the mythology, what's going on here. So we got another one in between. I'm hoping they all kind of are more cumulative in that way leading up to this end. Otherwise, this feels like a weird episode to slip in just because it felt
only
like,
8.
Hey, we have the money to do it now. Let's do this story I've always wanted to do. I don't know that it was all that useful. So in the production of this, in 73 Yards, that was Millie's first time as Ruby. She's standing at a window. That was her first shot of the entire series. This is the second episode they shot. This is the final scene that we're going to come and talk to, was the first scene that Shudigatwa shot for this season. I don't know if that includes the specials. I think he did the specials already. So like the David Tennant, like when he was bi-generated, like all of that already happened. But it just makes me think, not only is the pacing weird, it is an unusual story, and the actors weren't as comfortable in their roles as they will eventually get. This is not a slight on them at all. Every Doctor, every companion just grows and gets deeper and more rich over time. And the beginning, when you look back, is always a little bit like, oh, I see where they're going, but they're just not there yet. I have a feeling that's where they are. But this coming in the beginning of the last half of the series, it feels weird as well. So I think it's a lot of things on top of this. It's early in the production of the series as well. So I don't know. It just, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, weird.
It was very strange. Yeah, I don't know. I we could just sort of jump to the end, or unless we should talk about Ricky. It was hard to make sense of Ricky's character, right? So is he supposed to represent like the rich white celebrity ally character that's sort of
I think so.
But I don't know. He was like perfect and everybody loved Ricky. The Doctor and Ruby at one point fight over him, and everyone loves Ricky. And he's like, he reads, he's not on the...
He turns his bubble off.
Is that supposed to be, or is that supposed to be like, hey, if we walk away from these echo chambers that these corporations are creating for us, we'll be free like Ricky and be more open-minded? He's
not, though, because he says every day he still posts his videos, posts his songs, and then he goes and does everything else. So he's not free. He still participates in this.
He's still participating.
Is it because... Is it like one of the, a celebrity influencer's like, I don't want to do this thing, but that's what I have to do to make my living?
Sure.
Is it someone that's trying to better themselves, but at the same time, they're not really? It's like tweet activism sort of thing. Is that what's kind of happening?
I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I mean, you kind of have to live in this system, especially if you're creating things.
Right.
That's a whole other topic, Well,
I think that's kind of what it's getting. I think you're right. You're on the right track there. It's creators feeling the need to be in the system while at the same time hating it.
As you all know, I have a new book coming out.
Wait, what?
Yes, this is Goblin, the Wolf in the Well. But I have to dance and shake the cup all the time. And if you're unaware, Meta, who owns Instagram and Facebook and whatever, like now as part of their terms of service, every time I post a trailer or an image or anything from this book and it's set to public, I have allowed them to use that image to feed their AI. So they're training their generative AI on all of the images that we supply because it's public. So that's the way they're out of it. It's like, oh no, we're not. If you want to do a private image or whatever, if you're not set to public, but if you're trying to find an audience and you're trying to reach people, you have no choice but to, water the tree that will hang you. And it's awful. So, I mean, I think in that sense, like, okay, that's basically what Ricky is doing.
Yeah, I think so.
But also, is it? I mean, I don't know. It just felt like his character was like perfect and kind of funny. And then he becomes a martyr. essentially at the end, he's trying to help, which I also think is added there to say, like, it's not space racists. It is space racist.
It is,
but
space
it's
racist.
Also the wealthy class do not care for you. Yes, they're racist, and that's built into the system, but they will also use and discard anyone as long as it benefits them, including other, people playing in the system, whatever. So, I mean, I think that's also part of it, but it just the whole thing felt a little clunky. Like the idea of the end was so interesting that a lot of the stuff leading up to get you to that point was sort of like I hated the code. It reminded me of Lost with the code.
8. Wait a minute. 15. 16.
Dude, I'm serious. Stop. And then ultimately was like dumb. Like, why would you have a code to get you into a channel that was pulse-based? And Ricky's like, of course I know pulse-based because I've been reading schematics or whatever. It was like, why would you have a system like that? And the punching of the code. It was just like create tension in the scene because you have to keep doing this. It was a way to
create tension. It was the literal, almost literal, ticking time bomb sort of thing. It was like a ticking time bomb, but it was also a way to just keep them in that, it was filler. It was a way to keep them in a space while this, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense from a plot point of view. I mean, Ricky as this kind of knight in a way of saving her. And then
white knight.
Very, very, very white knight. I what else is there to say about that? I think it was an idea that was either not executed well enough or was too thin an idea to support where they were going with this part of the story. I don't know. Right. It didn't work all that well.
Right. And so at that point, I guess we should just jump into the end there. Like you're saying, that is the moment that the character reveals her true nature. There is no growth. As soon as she gets the opportunity, she tells the AI, hey, this guy's, and by the way, the AI would know that if anyone's going to have access to all of the records. Oh, wait. We did not talk about Susan Twist being the mom of this
There's
monster.
two things. I want to talk about that and
right?
in the same scene.
So talk about that. I want to save the end for the end because that's kind of the meat of the thing. So Susan Twist being the mom, she's recognizing her from different episodes.
Well, so they definitely both recognize her. The doctor says, wait, she looks like someone. She looks like
the medic.
The ambulance from Boom. And Ruby is like, she looks familiar, but that's not it. She recognizes her but can't place her. He recognizes her from
because the previous episode she had that conversation with her and said, I know you. Where do I know you from?
Right. So they're continuing to do that, which is great. The fact that I wonder how that actually will kind of play itself out. Why is she actually, how do I say this? Does Lindy actually, Lindsay thinks that's her mom. Is that her actual biological mom, or is that a computer thing of her mom? Has she always been on this rich planet? It seems like she grew up there. She was sent away as an infant to a rich planet because she can't walk without this bubble. She never takes the bubble down. Right. Did she grow up as a toddler in this bubble? Right. That could have been a version of her mom that she's died, because we also see on the video screen the home world.
The whole home world
it's completely there's decimated, not decimated, destroyed. There's no population. I really did not like. So you have the shot of that, and it shows homeworld population 0. And there's the little slug standing on a rooftop,
waving.
I was thinking almost like a dark version of the Dark Knight, just standing on the top.
It almost looked like
really
a
bad
courtruum sketch too, as well. If somebody sat there and took that.
We didn't actually.
But
wait.
Susan Twist.
Why are there? It didn't need to have the slug there at all. It's enough to say
you would know
homeworld is gone. We don't care if there's a slug. And by saying there is a slug there, how did it get there? So is the AI growing slugs everywhere?
Slugs, even though, as you're saying, right through the head. But sticking with Susan Twist, what if none of this is real? The entire season is fake. It's all a game.
It's Mrs. Flood's dream. It's Mrs. Flood.
Right. No, but seriously,
it could be.
Susan Twist has created these stories for them to inhabit. They're in some kind of Matrix style simulation virtual thing. And that's how she's, because she's actually not real, and she's making them go through all of these situations and seeing how they work out. But ultimately,
three times now, we've only seen her as a on a screen. She in this one, in Boom as the ambulance, and in Space Babbies when she was on the screen as
and
the,
she's been out of the screen as well.
But then she's been right. So I'm just saying, like, I'm not sure.
I'm just saying at some point
that there's those.
Well, I'm just saying at some point, they're going to wake up. They're on a table, and then Susan Twist is going to be standing over them, and some kind of doctors, and be like, "Oh, you've woken up out of our simulation. I've been checking in on you along the way, and you guys have done great."
We did that with Amy Pond when she was pregnant and she her clone was actually running around the world.
Yeah, maybe it's not doctor. I mean, that's probably
no. But I know what you mean.
Played out, but
not that they wouldn't reuse an idea. So it's quite possible. But I'm very interested to see where the twist of it all goes.
Right.
Because is it a separate thing? Obviously, I think it all ties together. Because there's the pantheon of gods. There's the superstitions. There's Susan Twist, there's the snow, there's Ruby's
Flood.
Parentage, there's Mrs. Flood, who's this linchpin of all of this.
It's all about Mrs. Flood.
It's
Come on.
Okay, so we get to the end.
So she turns.
We do have Lindy
on the man.
We have Lindy saying, that's his name. You should have eaten him first. So they kill him. And then we actually get to see the Doctor and Ruby together. In their ports underneath. So the TARDIS was able to land in that conduit area because it was below the protection. Is that why they were able to get there?
They say
because they weren't. They said that they couldn't get into the bubble.
Yeah, we can't get in. You've got great defenses. I can't get in. And neither the Doctor nor Ruby can get in. So it's not just because the Doctor is black and that's why he can't get access. There's plenty of language that is around that, as we said, like the sort of racist stuff and the way she treats Ruby is different than how she treats the Doctor.
We couldn't travel with you. What? Why not? Because you, sir, are not one of us. I mean, so you were kind, although it was your duty to save me, obviously. I mean, screen-to-screen contact is just about acceptable, but in person, that's impossible.
The language that they use, the other, a-holes that are hanging out with her with the language that they use, and you're going to get contaminated and all this sort of horrible stuff, all for the main point, which is, not something you see, which is you can't help certain people. They will not change, and you're sort of wasting your time in trying to be nice, or you hope that you're going to get through to them, because you won't, and they will continue to do what they're going to do. Which he
doesn't give up. He even when he realizes, I think,
he's still going to.
He realizes what's going on. Why they won't come with him? Why they won't come specifically with him? I don't think they would have had they wouldn't have been thrilled to go with Ruby either, because the classism thing, but the racism part of it. We will not go with him, but he does not give up. Until they decide.
He keeps pushing, and he gets very upset, or he's laughing, and then it becomes emotional.
Laughing in realization of what's
yes. My issues too, outside of all of the heavy stuff, is they never established that these woods are that dangerous. So to me, it doesn't make sense. The Doctor has left so many people and let them escape, and then let them live. He's like, I'm going to take you to the stars. But in any other Doctor Who story, they'd be like, yes, they're frontiersmen, and this is how society is built, and I hope they learn, and they don't use TikTok or whatever. I don't know. It just was I feel like they should have done more to establish that the outdoors was uninhabitable or dangerous, or
I think your rewrite is better.
Anything.
If they'd been bringing in the slug creatures, even if they were small little but still carnivorous creatures, that the AI was growing to be bigger, maybe that's what, and they just didn't explain it. Whatever.
Who knows? It's fine.
But it would have put some stakes there.
Right. The point being is the fact that you can't help these people. It's kind of sad, I think, to think about younger people watching this and then being like, I guess this society is awful, and there are awful, unsavable people in it. Even though that's true, and there's history has proven that, it's depressing. But I guess that's, in a way, it succeeds in that sense.
I think maybe the lining, the bright spot to that is that's all true in the way that the story is being told, but the doctor again still doesn't give up, even though he knows this is what's happening.
Yes.
So there's still that willingness to try this. I don't know if it's a duty or just a sense of what's right, but he's going to try, even though he knows what the society is and what.
And I really liked the way that they shot the last few moments with her on the boat. Sailing away, and the eye connection between the two of them, and I thought that was pretty powerful.
The music is very like hitting you over the head with how important a moment this is. Look what Doctor Who is doing. We're talking about racism. It was just this big.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe
it didn't need to be that big.
I like the holding on her face. I don't remember the musical cues.
Oh my god!
But I'm sure if I watched it again, I would be like, okay.
It was bombastic strings and drums and just hitting you over the head with it. And I think don't treat your audience like they're not going to get it if you don't clobber them with it.
Sure. I
think we would all, and to have that pain be realized because he can do so much with just his face. I don't know. There was that. And so leaving that aside, the other big moment from not big moment, but the acting choice, dialogue choice, I don't know if it's the writing, whenever the Doctor and Ruby are in the video call with Lindy and they're putting the pieces together and he figures out that it is, these creatures were created by the AI. This is what's going on. When he has that moment, it is a full 30 seconds of him saying, no. Oh, it can't be that. Like, the Doctor does that all the time. It was so long.
And it's longer when you're on a video conference call. So like there's no background for him to sort of walk around with. So it's like a lot of that exposition.
Yes.
And a lot of dialogue with nothing else really interesting to look at.
That feels very,
so that's even harder.
I feel like she did so much again, this is not her, this is the writing. It's just so much explaining of things and but if we just do that, and it's a very Doctor Who thing, but this just felt just stretching for time for some reason. I don't know why they did that.
Yeah.
So that it bugged me a little bit. But anyway, that's
I don't know.
I love him.
Again, I didn't love this episode. I thought up until the end it was very kind of subpar, honestly. But then the end, again, I'm happy anyone's taking a chance and doing something and putting themselves out there, because I'm sure people are going to beat them up for it. So like, it made it an interesting episode and one worth talking about and having opinions on. If it had just been her becoming good, no,
it wouldn't have worked.
It would have been like, that doesn't match reality either. So I'm glad I watched it. I only watched it once. You said you watched it twice or once and a half or whatever.
Well, once and a half, yeah.
I don't ever think I want to watch it again. I don't know. I'm looking forward to. I don't think I saw like next week on, right? So I don't know what's coming at all. So, it's better than Space Babies. So there's that.
They should put that on the box quote.
But
That's great.
It's not been as good as the last three, let's say.
I totally agree. One minor point before we can jump out of this. You had mentioned this in the episode Boom about when the little girl, her dad dies, and she's just like kind of okay with it.
She just comes over the hill. Oh yeah.
How they were just kind of like the treatment of grief.
Yes.
The treatment of grief felt very. I don't know what your words were for it, but didn't feel like it was appropriate.
It's like very flippant or like
moving past.
Yeah.
There you go. That happened again in this story, though I can't tell exactly how much to read into Lindy's reaction. But when she's told, like, Mummy is dead, she's not, and she's like, Mummy went to the sky. oh, how lucky Mummy is. Like, she does that same thing. And do they say the same thing in Boom? Like, going to the sky or whatever?
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
But it was a very similar thing.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
They do reference the sky a lot. Like, I swear to the sky. Like, there's, like, this keeps... So maybe there's something else going on there.
That's good that
but
you
it is
caught that. You're right. They both say going to the sky, at least from what I remember. So that's interesting. But yeah, they're all like
either
infantile.
Actually, what she said was like, how lucky for Mummy. I couldn't tell from her face if she was just saying that because that's what you're supposed to say. Oh, she's at rest now. Like, it's just like this platitude that you say. Or if she was actually like, oh, good. Like, she actually, like the daughter in Boom actually seemed, because she was brought up in that faith, she seemed to really believe, this is great. This is the best news for Daddy. For Lindy, I'm not sure that she felt the same, but it was just that there was a connection there. That's all.
Yeah, there is
a lot
of
belabor
stuff.
that point more.
No, I think that's cool that you caught that. There's a lot of stuff about faith, in attacking, like, examining faith and faith as a tool. And it's interesting here applied to these people. Do you remember what their job was? They mention what their job is. It's like going through data or something for 2 hours a day, and then they're on the TikTok or whatever.
I think it's a party. Love Island. Yeah.
It is interesting. It's also interesting that she is the daughter of Mummy, who built the whole thing, right? She's like I guess she just paid for it. Right?
She just paid for
her to be there. Not she didn't pay for the whole.
It's like she sent her to boarding school.
Yeah, she didn't build Love Island.
I don't think so.
I don't know. It's fine. It's all fine.
Well, we had thoughts about this story. We got a couple of people
let's see what
tweeting at us as well.
People said.
Just a couple. I don't think... Maybe there wasn't a rush to comment on this story, so there wasn't a whole lot. But I will say, the Doctor Who show, no relation, said if Russell T Davies really wanted to do a Black Mirror, which in an interview he said he actually was inspired by one of the stories, the one with the you rate everyone's interactions, like
I've never
5-star reviews.
I've only seen one episode of Black Mirror where like it recorded everything that you see, and the guy kept like replaying scenes with him breaking up with his girlfriend or something, and it was interesting, but I'm not that familiar with that show.
I've seen 1.5 episodes, so
I've seen a lot of Twilight Zone, and so I feel like I
kind of the same thing,
sort of in the same universe.
Absolutely. So he says if Russell T Davies really wanted to do a Black Mirror, he'd have made Lindy really likable, so when the twist happened at the end, not only would the audience feel shocked, they'd also feel conflicted for having liked her at all. That's the twist he should have pulled off, in my humble opinion. But no,
I agree with that.
I think that's
a better. I feel like a better approach when you can empathize or connect with the villain, and then you realize, that I feel like is the kind of change when art works, like where you can sort of connect and then see yourself differently and see the society differently. This is sort of like we know this already. Or a lot of people know this already. Or the people that are going to like this episode know this already. No one that thinks like Lindy is going to watch this and be changed in any way. Because it's so surface level metaphor. Like, it's not a metaphor. This is what it is.
I think it would have been difficult to make her more likable and still keep the character and still keep her as the main representation of that vapid society. Like how
I don't know. I think
whatever.
You could probably do it. But yes, keep going. I think that's a great. I agree with that.
I still think
comment.
We discussed this already, that it is still like he's still playing with expectations. We still expect her to grow and for the Doctor to save her.
Yeah.
So to still pull the rug out at that point works well. But yeah, maybe this would have been a different way to go that could have worked. Then we got a message from our friend Misfit Scully, who says, I was all ready to not like Dot and Bubble. Mm-hmm. The clips and snaps put me off a little bit, as it looked like an explosion in a powder puff paint factory had taken place. That's great.
Agreed.
Yeah. Said before, I kind of felt the same way at the beginning. Everything, including the clothes, was so brightly colored.
A society that is so colorful and yet hates people of color.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Let's see.
Oh my God.
Everything, including the clothes, was so brightly colored it brought back slight Happiness Patrol nightmares.
Oh yeah,
kinda. I like that. Yeah, but I was very wrong. The way social media has taken over our lives could mean that humans do live the way that the occupants of Fine Time do one day. Luckily, I will either be dead or in a care home by then. Yeah, that's always something to look forward to. I won't have to do it because I'll be dead. Dana goes on to say, I thought the creature design very Tractators from Frontios. Frontios. What do they look like?
I know
it's a story that we did, but I don't recall it.
I kind of remember the thumbnail I made for it, but I don't remember a thing about it. That is a Peter Davison story?
We could drop it here, maybe.
I believe it's a Peter
I don't
Davison
know.
story.
They all blend together for me now, so I have no idea. It's 158 episodes, folks. Don't recall everything. Anyway, but it was so augmented by CGI that I wonder if it had not been for the Disney money, they would have looked totally different. Did they really need such detailed practical puppet after all? I would say without the Disney money, they would have probably had fewer of those. And maybe they wouldn't have made one at all and just done it all CG. But from the behind the scenes, they were saying like actually having the practical reference was great for the digital artists. So it sounds like they built the creatures practically first and then did all the
stuff
additional stuff, which is great.
I like that. I like
they
as much practical
great.
stuff as you can do is better. Yeah, I agree. I thought
the mix of the two is always good.
Yeah, they were an interesting design, and I don't know if they were a creature that existed in comics before, or like we saw that with Star Beast, and they were interesting.
Star Beast. Let's see. Wrapping up here, I noticed a lack of non-white faces before Lindy Pepper Bean racist reveal at the end of the episode, which was a gut punch. To think this was Shudi's first ever scene on the show. I don't know that it was his first ever scene on the show. Maybe you're right. I read it as the first on this season. So I would assume that the Tenant stuff with him would have been shot before this, but maybe not. I don't know. But yes, it was very early. Again, we mentioned this before. Another interesting, well-told story. From next week, we shouldn't be Dr. Light as we have been in these last two. Loving the season. Sad there's not much more left. Thank you so much, Dana.
Thank you.
And she said, also, I forgot another Susan Twist appearance. Of course, you got to spot Susan in every story.
It's like finding Goldbug in those Richard Scarry books.
Oh, yeah. Is that what it was called? Goldbug?
That's the little guy, little Goldbug.
Yeah.
I called him Goldbug. I think that's the official name of Goldbug. He is the best, Richard Scarry. Is it Scarry or Scary? I don't know.
I was always Scary. I think it's Richard Scarry.
Scary. Okay. Apologies for calling you.
Anyway, apologies to the Scarry family. Anyway, Eric, that's what we got for our replies. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do that on social media.
Yes.
On X at TODW
Don't
Show.
say X. I refuse. I'll go down with the
that's what it is now. It's X. Otherwise, so you can also email us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. We will read those on the air as well.
TODWS. No, TODW Show on Instagram and TikTok. I don't post a lot there, but I actually did from the last two.
Yeah.
We're
two trying to find a right place to put stuff.
But it's a lot of work.
That's a lot going on here. Anyway, folks, so that's what we had to say about this.
That's it.
Let us know if we missed anything. You can also keep tweeting at us, and we will talk about it next time as well.
We will.
But I think that was it.
All right. Good,
Eric,
good time.
We're out of here.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
Where's my robot? You know?